Hi, I'm Matthew Rudd, Medical Support Team Lead for ABELSoft. Thanks for joining today where I'll be covering the new Physician Dashboard and the Patient Manager module in detail. This will help you improve your practice productivity and keep track of your patients better throughout their visit. You will learn the features and benefits of the dashboard and Patient Manager, how easy it is to set up, customize, and navigate through these functions, and additional features that will improve your operational efficiency depending on your practice discipline. Now let's take a look at ABELMed's enhanced dashboard, the conduit to all important information, and the functions that you'll need to help improve the overall efficiency of your practice. The first advantage of the physician dashboard is that you can immediately view all outstanding tasks and when they are due. This ensures that the things on your to-do list do not become overdue or forgotten. Secondly, the dashboard saves you time by giving you instant access to many important functions such as investigations, encounters, appointments, patient tasks, and forms all from one screen. We'll review these functions in more detail shortly. Thirdly, a real advantage of the dashboard is it allows you to achieve synergies by being able to see all the most important information from one screen without any need to navigate through various screens to build a picture of the patient status. We're going to go through the dashboard setup and configuration and just showing you the different areas. The first one is the patient file button. That's located in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and it's actually on every tab of the dashboard here. So basically, no matter what tab you're on, if you are looking at a record attached to a certain patient and you click on the patient file button in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see additional information such as their name, their address, their phone numbers, health card number, version code, their last appointment, their next appointment, as well as primary caregiver, referring physician, etc. All of this is accessible via the patient file button so that you don't have to leave this screen to get that information. You don't have to open the patient personal tab up like you would have in the past. You can just go ahead and click patient file and see all of that information here. The next thing that we're going to look at is the patient chart quick access button. That's those buttons that are below the patient file button. We can see that when you click patient file, these buttons at the bottom of the screen are the quick access buttons that'll get you to any part of the patient chart. So if you wanted to go to the personal tab, you could click personal, and it's going to take you to the personal tab for that patient, and you can see all the information. When you close them, you go back to your dashboard. And same thing, if you were to click on services to go do a bill, maybe, that's where it's going to take you to create a bill, and etc. If you wanted to do documents, you would highlight that. So these are all just the different tabs of the patient record, which you can see here at the top of the screen in ABELMed. So all of these tabs have a button under the patient quick access, and you can navigate to them really easily without having to go file by file, go tab by tab, and look through it manually. The next thing we're going to look at are the red global buttons. These are the buttons on the dashboard that are in red, of course, and what that means is that they don't matter what patient you're on. It's a global button. So if I'm on Kim or Barb or Marg, this scheduler button that's in red just does the same thing. It opens the scheduler. And let's say we would go to investigations, and it doesn't matter whose lab I'm looking at. If I want to change the display or add a new lab or import something, these are global. It doesn't matter what patient you're on. That's what the red buttons mean. They're global. It doesn't change what it does depending on the patient record that you're highlighted on. The next thing we're going to look at are the blue action buttons. The blue action buttons are the other side of that, whereas they do only respond to the patient that you're on. So any of these buttons here, like opening the lab, adding a comment, adding a task, or signing it off, would only be applied to the patient you have highlighted. So Hillary, Mary, etc. You would just click on, say, if I wanted to sign off this lab, I'd click sign off, and it's going to sign off just the one we're on, Mary. And same thing for appointments, for encounters, for whatever. If I wanted to validate a health card here, when I click the blue action button, the validate, it's just going to do the patient that I'm on here. And that's the difference between the red and the blue buttons. Red are global, blue are specific to the patient that you have highlighted, and they're called action buttons. Now we're going to go into the actual dashboard functional navigation. We're going to go through the different sections, investigations, encounters, appointments, tasks, and we're going to do that in the program. So let's jump in here. So the first screen that most people see when they come in is appointments. This is your patient's appointments that you have for today. You can easily change the day by clicking on any day on the calendar here, or change the month or change the year. When you highlight an appointment, you can also view some of that appointment information on the right-hand side, the name of the patient, the time of the appointment, how long it is, if they have an alternate ID, phone numbers, health card number, etc. And from here, again, the patient file button gives you additional information and the ability to jump to any of those patient tabs. You can also validate the health card right from here. So if I click validate, it's going to check with the ministry. Now, right now, this is a test environment, so my validation won't work. But normally, if you have internet and a real account, it would validate and tell you either 50, the code 50 meaning it's valid, or one of the codes meaning it's invalid or maybe it's expired. You can also change the status of your appointments from here. So let's say the patient has now arrived. I could say, yep, they're arrived, and this patient is no longer unconfirmed or not arrived. You can also cancel the appointments from here. So if a patient, say, didn't show up today, we can cancel it, and we can say that they missed their appointment. And it'll remove the appointment from our screen, but it keeps a contact on that patient record so that the next time they come in, we know that they missed that appointment. Finally, you can also create encounters right from here, either one using your default setting or from a specific template, and you can create a bill right from here as well, meaning that if you click bill, it just takes you to the services tab and allows you to add a service or edit or do whatever you need to with your billing. Finally, we have send email. What this does is it ties into the Able Portal product. So if you use Able Portal, you'll have the option of sending a portal email, like a confirmation or a reminder, to the patient directly, the same way you would from the full schedule. So that's the appointment section of the dashboard. The next one we're going to go into is investigations. The investigations are another word for, say, labs. So if you subscribe to Life Labs, Gamma Dynacare, MedHealth, or Spire, or even the OLIS labs, they all come here to your dashboard when they get downloaded over the internet. So here we can see this is more of a clinical summary document. This one is an actual microbiology culture and sensitivity report, so you can see here the results. You can go through all the different results on your dashboard and review them. And once you're done with the patient, or once you've reviewed it, on the dashboard here you have several buttons at the bottom. One is the button to add a comment. Looks like we're just opening the lab here. You can also open the lab, by the way, view it in full screen, so you can see the whole report the way it came from the lab company. And let's say we wanted to say, okay, I've looked at this lab, it's now reviewed. So you click the review button and it put a check mark under reviewed, so we know that one's been looked at. But I may also want to add a comment. So I could say, yep, we're going to add a comment that everything's normal, and we'll say that that's specifically for the first source test there. There, so you can see that on this date, at this time, the Dr. RK added a note saying source normal. So you can add whatever type of comment you want from here. You can also add an alert or a task. An alert would go to the patient cover tab and allow you to, let's say we're just adding alert for this lab. Now if I go into Grant's cover tab, you'll notice that there's an alert here and it's bright yellow. So we know, oh, there's an alert that we should look at. And that's what was done right from the dashboard. That's what the alert button does. Another thing would be maybe a task. So let's say you want to send a task to your receptionist to ask them to book the patient for a follow-up. So I could say here, I'm going to send it not to nurse, but I'll send it to reception. And I'll say, yeah, recall the patient, and we'll say in 2 weeks. And then I'll send that off. And now we've sent a task to our receptionist about that particular lab report. And the good news is it actually puts like a link right to that lab in the task. So they can just click it, it'll open up right away. And then once you're done with your investigation, you would sign them off. So you would click the sign off button, and it changes the reviewed status to signed off. And then you can go through and sign off a bunch of them if they're sitting there on your dashboard. But after you're finished, you would click refresh, and all of the signed off labs would disappear. Of course, they don't disappear from the patient record, just from the dashboard. They stay on the patient record forever. You can also choose to print the lab if you still use paper results, or you can manually add in a new lab report if you manually want to type in a lab result, or if you do any kind of in-house labs. The display button here lets you see, of course, all the mass reports. and your unmatched reports, meaning any ones that maybe the patient was spelled wrong or the version code or the health card number wasn't entered correctly and you have to match it together. You can also see if you signed one off by accident and you're like, oops, I need to see what lab that was. I totally forgot the name of that patient. Well, I can click show me the ones I signed off today, and we'll see the ones that see here say that they're signed off. Grant, the one I just did, it shows back up again. So that I can see, oh yeah, it was Grant William. I can go now, call the patient, do whatever my follow-up is. That's it for the investigations. The next section down would be our encounters. This is where your actual visit with the patient would come in. When you fill out a visit with the patient, it shows up on your dashboard. This gives you the opportunity to maybe add more notes, fill out any short form that you might have put in, or maybe do some follow-up with the patient, either booking them back in for an appointment or sending them for lab work or other type of diagnostic tests. Once we have the lab or the encounter on our dashboard, and you've reviewed it and you know you're finished with it, all you would do is highlight the encounter, click the sign off button. The only options are new encounter, open that encounter and maybe fill it out more, add more notes, or sign off the encounter. And when you're done with it, you click sign off. It marks it as signed off, but it doesn't refresh automatically until you click that refresh button. This is to make it a lot easier to sign off multiple encounters at a time where you don't have to wait for it to refresh every time. But once you do click refresh, you'll notice the encounter that we were looking at is now gone from our list. And we're just looking at the other ones in the list. So that's what the encounter section is for. The next one down is our tasks. Now, tasks are a very useful part of the program that lets you keep track of to-do items for patients. It could be things that you need to do like paperwork. It could be that you need to collect a certain fee from them. Maybe you need to follow up with them and book them for another visit or lab work, or may not have anything to do with a patient. It could be that you want to send a test or a task to all of your staff to say, please come in early tomorrow. We're going to have a staff meeting. So all of these go to your tasks section, and they come with a start date, a due date if you so wish. The start date is always filled in. It always is the day that you created the task. And the due date would only be filled in if you chose to. So with our task here, you can see all the buttons at the bottom. So if I started a new one, I could say, yeah, the start date is today, and the due date, if I choose to, I could set it as next Wednesday. You could then give it a name and put in some test notes here. There, I've just made a task, and that's how easy it is to do that. You can also edit the task that you're on. You can reply back to the person who sent you the task, similar to email, and when you click, you'll see it comes up going back to the originator of the task, and then it has a new note section for you to just add in whatever your comment happens to be. And when you click OK, it replies back, and it marks it as open replied, so that we've actually replied back. Once you've refreshed, any ones that you've replied to disappear from your dashboard because they're now in your outbox. So currently we're looking at the inbox, my inbox, but if you wanted to see the ones that you've sent out, either by replying or sending them, you would just click on the outbox button here at the bottom. And now it says my outbox, and you can see the one that I just sent off there is right here. So the reception test, that's the one I just sent out. And there's the one for Grant William, the recall that we did for the lab. So these are all in my outbox because I had sent them out. When I want to go back, I just click on inbox and it takes me back to my inbox where normally you would sit. You can also choose to display all your closed tasks for the last 2 days if you close some and you can't remember what they are. Or if you want to hide all your future tasks, so let's say you use tasks, some people like to use it to keep track of when patients are next due for something. So if a patient's next due for something in 6 months and it's a task dated 6 months from now, well, you don't need to see that until they're actually due. So you could click hide future tasks, and then only the ones that are past already show up. Once you have the selection the way you like it, click on display and go to save current inbox selection. And that just means that every time you log into ABELMed, it's going to have the same settings on the dashboard that it does before last time. You can also click on the settings button here. We do have templates for tasks. There are some that ship with ABELMed, like all of our preventative maintenance ones, like recalling patients for mammograms, colorectal, etc., as well as ones for lab work that would automatically fill in for when there is a recall for lab work. And you could make your own template. So if you have a type of task that you use a lot, say to rebook a follow-up in 2 weeks kind of a thing, or to call the patient to fill out a consent form, and you do that all the time, then it's probably best to make a template. You can fill out all the things that you need to, even the recipients, beforehand, and then when it comes time to use it, you would just say new task, pick one of your templates, and it fills in all the appropriate information for you. The patient manager allows you to inform everyone in the office the current appointment status of the patient. We'll quickly go through the valuable and time-saving functions. First, how to use and view the patient manager. Then we're going to cover how to track patient wait times, add a patient with an appointment to the queue, book an appointment for a patient in the queue, and remove a patient from the queue and cancel an appointment. So we're going to jump into the patient manager now. And if we click on Patient Manager, we can see the name of the patient, the arrival time if they've arrived so far, the time that they're supposed to be here, the work to do or what they're coming in for, the provider who they're booked for or who their usual provider is, the status of that appointment, and how long have they been waiting if they're a walk-in, or if they're waiting in like the status of like this gentleman here. So I've just marked Glenn Hamill as being arrived, and we can see here that they've been waiting for 1 minute. So they're sitting arrived in our waiting room, but they're not in an exam room yet. So here's a patient here. They're supposed to be in at 8:45. We're now going to click on Arrive Status and say that they're arrived. So it moves them down to the next section. So now we have two arrived statuses, this patient and this patient. So we can see this patient was supposed to be at 8:45, but they arrived at 3:09 p.m. So you know that they were late. As they go through their visit, now we can say, okay, well, they're in exam room 1. And let's say this patient here is in, if we go to status, or by the way, you can click the button here or just right click and go to status, and we can say they're in exam room 2. So now we'll make another patient arrive. Let's say this patient comes in and they're now arrived. And so we have 3 of our sections filled in. We have the pre-arrived, we have arrived, and we have in progress. These ones are in exam room 1, exam room 2. And then when the patient's finally done, or let's say that this patient never came in. They just went right to departed. So we're going to say this patient, they're departed. They never even, they didn't want to wait. So we have, these are not booked and not arrived. We have arrived, Kelly is there. In progress, we have Glenn and Marg in exam room 2 and 1 respectively. And completed, we have Barb completed because she departed. She didn't wait around for her appointment for whatever reason. So this is what the patient manager does. It tracks the visits through the office, and it allows you to know at a glance where are these patients in the office. And at the end of the day, you want to have all your appointments in this completed section. The only ones that would be maybe people who didn't show up or missed their appointments, or people who are still in the office. Maybe you forgot someone in their waiting room and they're sitting there crying and they've been there for hours. So it's a great way to keep track of that and make sure that you don't forget anybody. As they're waiting, you'll notice the times start to increase for the different sections. So this person has been arrived for 1 minute. This person has been in the exam room for 2 minutes, and this person has been 0 minutes. So it'll keep track of those every couple of minutes. It'll update them, and you can see how long the patients have been waiting. So it's a great way to find out, where's our problem areas of our workflow for our patients. Let's say we wanted to book an appointment from a non-appointment. So we're going to click the global button, add to queue. So it means I'm going to add either a new patient, like a walk-in that's never been here before, or an existing patient that has been here before, but they just don't have an appointment. So let's say it's an existing patient, and I'll search for Smith. Okay, there's Allison Smith. And what is she coming in for? Runny nose. So you'll see what it does. It takes our patient, Allison Smith. It says she's here for a runny nose. She got here at 3:11, and it starts counting. So she's a walk-in, and how long is she going to end up staying here waiting for her appointment? So this will keep track of that under the waiting section. Once you're ready to book the appointment, you would hit the book button here, or if the patient says, you know what, no, that's too long of a wait, I'm just not going to bother, you can hit remove. But let's go ahead and book this one. So I'm going to book it. It takes me to the schedule. So I'm ready to go to book my appointment. Now all I have to do is click on the spot I want, hit enter. It comes up with that exact patient here, and we're just going to say, yeah, this is not for the overdue PAP or the tetanus shot that they're due for. We're going to say, is this something else? And it's for runny nose. It takes that work to do item that we typed in on the dashboard and puts it in here for us to save us time. Just going to hit enter. That should book our appointment. So there's our appointment made for Allison. And if we were to go back to our dashboard now and refresh, you'll see that she's no longer considered an unbooked one. So that's the patient manager.